Now, let me get to the point that I was mentioning right before this clip. What I am saying, that the nemesis of our problems that we're having today are coming from the past of the Arab enslavement of our people, is still residual effects of that today. The European enslavement of our people, still residual effects of that today. The colonialism for over 150 years, still residual effects of that today. And of course, the main, I'm saying this, and please do not take this lightly, leaders, the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885, they created these artificial borders. It was a cryptic group of Europeans, and mind you, at the time that they did it, there was no independent African country whatsoever a part of that convention. They sat down in Berlin, Europeans and Americans, in 1884, 1885, and they looked to say, how can we control the resources and the people of the African continent for the next 1,000 years? This is what was on their mind. And they came up with a master cryptic plan that we must share amongst ourselves by partitioning the African continent. Now, my God, what they have done when they did it, they did not consider linguistics, ethnography, meaning the ethnic groups, the cultural mores and cultural practices of the people to partition. They just went with a knife and fork like you slice spaghetti or pizza and chopped up the African continent. Now, as a result of doing that, when independence came, I'm not faulting any of the leaders at the time of independence because we were so happy just to get independence. Our leaders did not realize the in-depth damage that partitioning had done to us. So as a result, here we are 50 to 60 years after independence. There's not one African country, including Ghana, that is self-reliant, self-sufficient in order to, furnish the needs of our people with food, clothing, shelter, security. We are still liable to the former colonial powers. There is so much distrust, and the distrust that we have is not so much the distrust of the European, which is wrong. We should be distrustful of them because they are the ones who actually caused the problem. But our immediate distrust is our next door sister neighbor. We distrust our neighbors because of these artificial borders. And these artificial borders have an economic fallout that has inhibited economic sustainability of our nations. It has inhibited not only the economic sustainability, but good governance has not been able to take fold because of these artificial borders. And what I'm saying, ECOWAS leaders, African Union leaders, you need to look into this because before the European came, Africa is over 100,000 years plus in terms of sustainable governance and able to provide food, clothing, shelter, and security for its people. We were doing this. It was only when the European invasions came that all of this transformation began to take place negatively. But if you look back and look at the unity of the African continent, and we not only were on this continent, we were in the Middle East and other parts of the world. But if you look, the sovereignty of our nationhood was predicated or based upon language, culture, and ethnicity of the land. These are how the borders should have been drawn. But what the European did, they came in and only looked for economic benefit for themselves. They didn't give a damn about the ethnicity of the people. They didn't give a damn about the culture of the people. They didn't give a damn about the language of the people. They just came in and sliced up the continent. And what I am telling you, as a result of what they did, that negative effect is still reverberating at this particular date that we're in right now. And this is the reason, I'm telling you, this is the reason we can never have African unity. Even though the first head of state of Ghana called for Africa to unite, but probably at the time he didn't realize that the humongous task that we would have to defuse these artificial borders before there can be total unity. We cannot have unity with the borders the way they are. As I said a moment ago, these borders have fostered distrust among our sister neighbors. They have caused chieftaincy disputes. These artificial borders have caused land disputes. These artificial borders have caused the movement of the people back and forth, where people are inhibited from crossing borders as they were doing formerly. So how in the world are we going to have Africa united, as the African Union is trying to do, without taking into account the artificial borders that the Europeans have created? And the Europeans are sitting back in number 10 Downing Street having champagne, laughing at all the problems that we have that they have created. They are sitting in Berlin saying that, oh, we did a good job. They will never be able to unite with these kinds of borders. They are sitting in Washington, D.C., having caviar and wine, saying that Africa can never get its house in order as long as she's dealing with these artificial borders. So I'm saying to you, we must reconstruct the sovereign borders of Africa, and they should be predicated upon language, culture, ethnicity, and of course with the political, economical ramifications all incorporated as such. But that is a prerequisite before we can find unity.